listening to Bill Bennett the other morning, and someone was on the radio with him talking about Common Core. And that great Republican stalwart of education czar Bill Bennett, basically said that if you believe that Common Core is somehow detrimental to the education of our children, that you're just shy of wearing tinfoil hat. Thank you, Bill Bennett. Okay, I'll get it in just a moment. Mark said I'm not a big enough mouth. So thank you very much, Bill Bennett. Will you please go away now? Yeah. You've had your say. Jeb Bush, we've had enough Bush. Go away. Okay? But with the information that we've been presented here today, and we have media with us here today, and it'll be interesting to see how it's all reported. But these are undeniable facts, ladies and gentlemen, that we've been presented with. This is what's coming if we don't get on our high horse and start riding right now. Dr. Effrem very wisely points out about the 100 phone calls that went in. Well, you know what? There's about, Mark told me there are about 130, 140 of us here this evening. Thank you again for being here. Absolutely. Please, yes. Tomorrow, we should burn up Tallahassee's switchboard. Call your representative. Call my representative. Call somebody else's representative and tell them we want the brakes on Common Core so that they have an opportunity to be exposed to the very good research and information that Dr. Effrem has presented to us here this evening. With that, we're going to take a couple questions. It's getting a little late into the evening, and my 5-hour energy drink is wearing out. And oh, by the way, I was just reminded that Representative Rayburn is on the Education Committee. So his representative, the representative's representative is here represented this evening. Let's make those phone calls, please. Let's burn those up. All right, so we're going to take a couple questions. Let me start in the rear of the room. Bonnie?
I just wanted to say that Senator John Legg, who is, he represents part of Hillsborough County, he is the education chair. So call his office as well.
Name again?
Legg.
Senator John Legg.
Yes.
He is offering one of the better bills that can act to slow this down. So he really needs support, but he needs to hear that we want this slowed down, and we want a fiscal analysis of this bill, of this program, because it is ridiculously high, and they don't even know. In fact, Representative Janet Adkins displayed her inner Nancy Pelosi and said, "We will not know how much this costs until we implement it."
Yeah. All right, we're going to get your questions in just a moment. But what we do when we call our representatives is we call them and we cite for them the facts. This violates 3 separate federal laws. We don't know, in spite of this wonderful representative who reminds me of, well, never mind, I won't go into that. But she gives us her best Nancy Pelosi. We now know what Nancy Pelosi kind of thinking gives us when we don't know the cost going in. So my point very simply is this. When we call our representatives, we call them with stone cold hard facts. And we tell them, violates 3 federal laws. We don't know what it costs, and at a minimum, we want to know that information before they move forward. Because the folks in this meeting tonight and across our state and across the country for that matter are going to be painted with a very broad brush about we just don't like education. And nothing could be further from the truth. It is because we are concerned about education that we're here this evening, that we homeschool our children, that we pay extra money to send them to a private school. So make sure when you send those emails and you make those phone calls that we hit them with the facts. Let's take some more questions. Yes, sir.
Well, I just wanted to have some clarification. I understand that Legg has given a bill that slows it down, but that doesn't necessarily, to me, indicate he is opposing Common Core. Sounds like he's still in support of Common Core in the long run once all the proper pieces are put into place. Is that correct, or?
I believe, and from what I've heard from our lobbyist, that he is very concerned about Common Core. And he is doing the best he can in the situation that he finds himself.
And even if he were here, we could ask him straight out, he probably still would dance around the answer. Next question.
Really quick, on legislation, it's key to note that sometimes a piece of legislation goes through and the only way to slow it down or stop it at this point and this late in the game, because we're ending the session coming up really quick, is to put something, an addendum or something to stop it for now, and they'll address it next year, and that gives them the opportunity to get all their ducks and their bill in the row. So we have to remember that we need to support him now so he knows we're behind him next time around.
Exactly. L-A-G-G.
Yes, ma'am.
What does this mean for ESE students?
English is a second language.
Special ed.
Oh,
Special ed, yeah.
I don't know all of the detailed implications of it for special ed, but I am concerned that the lack of and the decrease of quality for everybody is, not going to help them. Yeah, it's probably going to be worse. It's probably going to be worse. And I just wanted to mention really quickly that Friday night, in case you didn't know, the Republican National Committee passed a resolution against Common Core and against the data mining unanimously.
That's almost worth a standing ovation for the Republicans to get something right.
They did, they got it right, and so Florida should not be going in the opposite direction.
A broken clock is right twice a day. Yay, Republican. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Terry Kelly.
I've talked to several of our representatives, and most of them don't really know what this is about. They're looking for information. There's a tremendous machine that's pushing this, and those people, our representatives, are being dramatically influenced by that. You've put a whole ton of research up there that, as fast as I could take notes, I don't have even half of it. Is your PowerPoint available on the website or something like that?
The handouts that I did have a lot of the same information, almost all of it, and it's footnoted, so they can go to those links. I put them out. I didn't, put them as underlined embedded links. I put the web addresses and the dates and everything, so they can go find everything that I said.
Dr. Effrem.
Yes.
With your permission, and I'm going to try to say this loud enough, with your permission, we'll post a digital copy of that so that you can then send that information. You'll have it available and you'll be able to send it on to the representatives and their representative to get that to them. Great point, Terry. Thank you. Next question. Yes, ma'am, please.
In your professional opinion, because this was not legislatively debated, and it's really a private sector push, do you believe it's possible that there are components of it now that will not be if they heard the full story, that possibly there is deception in the presentation of it by omission of all the facts, etc., and that these people that are saying they're proponents have maybe not been told everything but what the machine wanted to tell them?
I believe that is the case, especially with the legislators.
If you all didn't hear the question was, maybe some of the people who are currently proponents of it don't have all the information available to them. And might they change their mind given what we've been shown here this evening? Dr. Effrem.
I believe that is the case, like I said, with the legislators. I think the county, at this county school board level, I also think that is much the case. I don't believe that's the case with our Commissioner of Education. He is full on, full bore, very much in favor of Common Core, and his unwillingness to to step back from it cost him his job in Indiana. And he was not only a proponent of Common Core, but he was also a proponent of early childhood mental health screening and these radical early childhood standards. So I think he is a big proponent, but you know, how much the state board knew and how much the county board members and legislators know, I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
Didn't Michelle Reed support Bennett to Scott? I was reading an article the other day that because of his pushback to the unions in Indiana, so it's like, you know, like he apparently stood up to the union machine in Indiana, but was supporting Common Core, you know, these other topics that we're not too pleased about. But I did read that Michelle Rhee was, during when she was here in the state, that she kind of championed Bennett too.
She may well have. I know he was also championed by former Governor Bush, and Commissioner Bennett was one of the governor's chiefs for change, and that was big. The Common Core part of it was really big in that.
Jack?
Thank you. Doctor, in your literature here it says, and is a system that has failed in other countries. Could you, for my personal information, give me an idea of what other countries? I'm thinking Europe. And why would we be pushing something? Why would they be pushing something on us that has been failing, or does it have a record of failure?
One word,
I know.
All right, so the question was, why would we do something that we already have a track record on that has failed? And what are those countries? Can you say Western Europe?
What I put in there was specifically about the school to work system, the career tracking by government system that has failed in Germany. It has failed in the Soviet Union, and it has failed in Japan. Now, Common Core per se, that set of standards hasn't been implemented, field tested, or anything anywhere. So it's not, you know, it's really concerning that they are pushing this on the entire nation without a better idea of what it will do for or to students.
Maybe they don't want us to know what's in it.
Yeah, that could be. Just, I'm going to get you next. Yes, sir. You had a question, please?
Is there any way on a state or local level that we can defund this stuff?
Everyone hear the question?
The question was if we can defund it on a state or a local level. The Senate Bill 1076 that just went through was the Education Appropriations Bill, and they said it will go through depending on funding. So they're not, because they don't even know how much it's going to cost. No, on a local level, because the districts have to do, you know, what they're funded to do by Tallahassee, it is highly unlikely. Now, the state can choose not to implement it still, but some of that will probably cause consternation with Florida's Race to the Top grant, the $900 million that they got.
It's how they control us every time with the dollars.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I had a question. I know Dr. Effrem, and thank you for all this information. You've done an analysis on a couple of the bills that Senate Bill 878, I understand, has already passed 39-0 against us. But the House Bill 7027, which has to do with education accountability and has to do with all this data mining of all of our children's information from cradle on up. That is still pending, and that's still up. If everybody would call their Florida representatives and ask them to please oppose this bill.
That would be the best thing to do. However, just before I came in, I talked to Randy, and he said that the House took 878, added a little amendment on it, and sent it back to the Budget Committee in the Senate, which means that it's probably going to pass, and I don't think they're going to take up and do anything with 7027. But that doesn't change the message that you need to say, no data mining. We hate 878. Just stop it.
All right, we're going to have one more question. No. Roger.
Go ahead.
Mark.
You can't hide in the private schools?
Okay.
Can't what?
And if the answer is no, why can't you hide them?
It's complicated with the private schools. The Catholic schools have taken Gates money for other things, not for Common Core, but they have gotten so much in grants from Gates for other things the Catholic Church has that it seems like the schools have just fallen over. The other issue, we have the issue of Governor Scott thinking and Tony Bennett thinking that the voucher students in private schools that receive money, state money, should take the Common Core tests, which is going to make it very difficult for the private schools to teach their own curriculum. And then you have the problem of voucher laws being passed all over the country that require the state tests for accountability. And actually on our website, Education Liberty Watch's website, we did a freedom grading scale of all the school choice laws in the country to see how many of them required those. But if in Florida at the moment, private schools can either take the FCAT, the voucher students can either take the FCAT or take a nationally norm reference test. As long as the nationally norm reference test isn't aligned to Common Core, you're okay. But if these national tests, like the Terra Nova, is starting to align with Common Core, then private schools are going to be in trouble.
And you mentioned the SAT.
Right.
Will be ready.
Right. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Effrem. For the Lieutenant Dan concert, go to our website, tampa912.org. You'll find all of the information about upcoming events at the end of this.